You know that friend who always seems to cancel plans at the last minute? The one who's tired again or promises maybe next time. The default assumption is usually that they're a flake, lazy, or trying to avoid you entirely. We live in a culture that insists a successful life happens outside the house. If you scroll through any feed, the standard for living your best life is defined by crowded parties, by tightly packed schedules, and constant visible motion. But research into the psychology of introversion suggests a different story. When that friend texts you to cancel, they aren't necessarily avoiding you. They are managing their own energy levels. For many, preferring a Friday night in pajamas over a loud bar is less about being antisocial and more about how their nervous system is actually wired to handle stimulation. Shifting your perspective to see staying in as a biological response rather than a social failure changes the context of being a homebody. To understand why, we have to look at how different brains process their surroundings. For an extrovert, a crowded room is a charger. Their energy levels increase when they are surrounded by noise and movement. Optimal arousal theory shows one nervous system needs heavy external input to reach its optimal zone, while another hits that peak with minimal input. At a party, the high-input brain stays comfortable, but the low-input brain quickly spikes into overstimulation, requiring stillness to reset. Psychologists call this a low-stimulation preference. These individuals don't need the outside world to entertain them because their internal world is already active and complex. Outside, the world is unpredictable. You navigate strangers, last-minute changes, and small talk. Inside, you have total control over the lighting, the noise, and the overall vibe. That control has specific, measurable benefits. Studies show that people who enjoy solitude tend to demonstrate higher levels of introspection, better problem-solving skills, and elevated creativity. The quiet of a living room is an active psychological workshop where some of our best ideas are born. However, if you frequently turn down invitations, it is worth looking closely at the specific motivation behind that choice. Sometimes the drive to isolate comes from a different place. For some, staying home is driven by social anxiety, the weight of past trauma, or the exhaustion that comes with depression. This spectrum maps the reasons we isolate. On the left, home acts as a cage, where staying in is a compulsion driven by fear. On the right, home acts as a refuge. Staying in brings contentment and control, actively refilling your psychological reserves. Do you stay home because the quiet genuinely fills you up, or because you are using these walls to hide from the rest of the world? Distinguishing between a refuge and a cage is a vital requirement for maintaining healthy psychological functioning as a homebody. Once you can honestly confirm that your space is a refuge, the guilt of turning down invitations begins to fade. Intentional homebodies find profound meaning in small rituals, like steam rising off morning coffee, or the way afternoon light hits the wall, details that the rest of the world often rushes past. This deliberate quiet is a direct alternative to the demands of modern culture, where value is measured in party pictures and constant public performance. If your ideal Saturday involves zero obligations and rewatching a comfort show, that is a valid choice for your well-being. Choosing your optimal environment over societal pressure is an act of valuing deep inner peace over superficial performance.